What's going on, everybody? Proto-moto here, and today I have the 8th place deck profile for the Simply Casual tournament that we ran. So starting today, we have Speedy over here with DDD. So Speedy, how are we doing today?
Not great.
I mean, you did just win the tournament, though.
Yeah, but with this deck, I lost 3 straight. So and this is my own creation. So that doesn't feel great.
All right. So starting off, what was your plan in terms of like the deck in general? What was your main goal?
So the idea was to kind of toolbox it, either because I wasn't sure what I was going to face. So I was trying to toolbox either 2 synchros out or just get into Zeus / mech as Deus Machinex as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that the way that DDDs work is it relies a lot on how much you have in hand and how much you have in graveyard, and playing around a single hand trap is not enough.
Okay.
So the idea was to turbo go first with 2 to 3 negates, or just get around anything as fast as possible.
So, I guess we can just go card by card. Like, Distributor of the Lost Dragon and Fission, you play 3 copies of Ash for your kind of, I guess, utility. And then everything else is pretty much just DDD cards. You play 2 Ghost, 3 Slime.
Well, there's niche ratios in here. Typically, most would tell you to play 1 Ghost, 3 Slime, 2 Necro, 1 Lamia.
Okay.
I was playing triple of the original 3 and 2 Ghost, and the reason I do this is because it's better chances of seeing the cards you want turboing into the synchro stuff. I do still like to play first off the draw because I had all of the pieces, the cross sheep, the 3 synchros, the double fusion setup. The idea is that Kepler and Copernicus will get you into the combo if you open 2, but if you open only 2 out of the 3, then you're left deep in deep water.
Okay. Alright. So, for Pendulum Monsters, you play a lot of one-offs. So you have 1 copy of Zero King Rage, Laplace, Ragnarok, Thomas, Apocalypse, and Cerberus. So what's kind of like the mind behind that?
I can explain each individually.
Okay, so starting off with King Rage.
Zero King Rage is literally just one of 2 things. It is either a 0 pendulum scale that you can search off of Gilgamesh, or it's just a fun card in a more casual tournament. Normally, if I were playing this at a competitive level, I would not use this card at all because it would only serve as a 0 pendulum in the scale. However, it's a funny half OTK if you can get it on the field at the right time. Okay.
All right, next up is Laplace.
Laplace was purely just a funny card.
Okay.
It's kind of a reverse kaiju, and it doesn't really work.
All right. Next up is Ragnarok.
This has always been in DDD for a long time. It's an extender. If you have certain things in place, it's also a perfect. It's your 5 scale, but really the more important abilities on it are either its pendulum effect when you're finishing your 2 synchro combo, or because then you can special the Lamia that you've already used like 4 times back out of the graveyard and synchro it off with your Apocalypse for a Siegfried to end on your end board. It's like literally the last play you make. Or it can be used as an extender early in the combo if you're not going into the synchros, but if you're going to the XZs, it can easily make Deus Machina on its own because it's a DDD rank 8, and you overlay it over 1, and it also special summons back, so it can often trigger other DDD effects, or it can get you 2 DDDs on the field for free if you're looking to link climb.
Okay. All right. After that, you have Savant Thomas.
So Thomas plays 2 different roles, and it's not as commonly played, but I prefer to play it over stuff like Galileo. I play Thomas mainly for its pendulum effect, where you can take a pendulum monster from your extra deck and add it back to your hand. Very often, let's say you normal summon Kepler, you search a contract, and then somebody Ash Blossoms your contract. Well, you're screwed. Unless you have a Lamia in hand. you Lamia pitch, let's say, any number of cards. You link off the Kepler you normal summoned and the Lamia for a Gilgamesh, and you set a Copernicus and a Thomas. Well, that Kepler that you linked off went to your extra deck, and you can add that Kepler back to hand and search another contract next turn.
Okay.
It allows you to play on the crackback if you get completely crapped on. The other thing it allows is it is a Pendulum 6 scale, and oftentimes, if your Copernicus gets negated, or if it gets linked off early in the combo, and then you're trying to play on crackback after you've negated their board a bunch of times, but they've chewed through a lot. Very often, you can just Pendulum summon a lot of your rank 4s and rank 2s, your level 4s and your level 2s out of the extra deck and out of your hand to Link Climb or Xyz Climb.
All right. And next up is Apocalypse. So
Apocalypse is purely in the deck for its Pendulum effect. And it is the other scale you set along with Ragnarok. You banish 2 DDDs and you special summon it. And
so
it's a level 7.
Typically?
Typically in the combo, I end up banishing off a ghost and any random piece that I've used left over that I don't have any further need. And the reason why you banish the ghost is so that way you can get your Genghis back later in the combo.
Okay.
The idea is it's special summon. Yeah.
Special summons itself out for basically free.
Yeah, it special summons itself, and when you do, you already have the Ragnarok in the Pendulum scale, and it triggers special summons the Lamia, synchro the Apocalypse and the Lamia off for Siegfried, and that's the end of the synchro.
Okay. All right.
Otherwise, it's just
All right, next up you play one copy of Cerberus. So Cerberus is like one of the level 4s that you play in the main deck.
Yes. So Cerberus, for the most part, it's literally just to go into Wave King Caesar. This is part of the more modern Xyz focused part. So, for example, I mentioned that when I link off for Gilgamesh, I usually set Ragnarok and Apocalypse. However, instead you can set what is this card? Yeah, Orthos and Cerberus. I get the names screwed up. And the idea is you can pop one and then change one to a level 4, overlay your other level 4 into a Wave King Seeger, detach, deal 1,000, overlay into a Mark King Tell, overlay into Mark King Tell, link it off for a Gilgamesh, and it just keeps going in circles.
Okay. So it's kind of just like getting resources out of your extra deck.
It's getting resources out of the extra deck at the right level. It's a level. It changes everything to level 4. One item to level.
All right. So this is like the newest DD sport. So DD Griffin. So what's the kind of theory behind playing 3 copies of this?
So Griffin plus literally any level 4 in your hand is a free Wave King Caesar, aka is also a free free Zeus. If you play it right. The other part of it is it's also a free Gilgamesh, because it's as long as you control any DD or DDD of any name, you can special summon it. It is literally just a name that is level 4 that is special summonable. Plus, it's a Pendulum 1, so you don't have to waste your Copernicuses out of the deck as your low scale if you Pendulum summon.
Okay. And then you already kind of went over Orthos being your
Orthos.
kind of
Orthos is part. Yeah.
Right.
Orthos is a trap popper.
Okay, cool. So it's like back row, just in case, because you don't play a lot. You don't play any of the like meta kind of stuff. Next up is Savant Copernicus.
It's one of the main. It's one of your 2 normal summons. You really don't want to normal summon anything other than Copernicus or Kepler. And the only time you want to normal summon Copernicus is if you don't have Kepler.
Okay.
Or you already have a gate in hand. For example, let's say you open up a Dark Contract with the gate, a Swirl Slime, and a Lamia. Normal summon Copernicus, send a Necro, you've got full combo.
Okay.
You already had it, but now it's easier to do. You can play through hand traps, you can play around things. Let's say you only open up the Copernicus and the Swirl Slime in the gate. You can normal summon the Copernicus, sending the Necro, and then activate the gate, search the Lamia, link, fusion those off, and you're off to the races.
Okay. Alright, so for spells, you play 1 copy of Change Your Heart, 1 Foolish, Monster Reborn, 1/1, Called by the Grave, and you have a Dark Contract with the Entities. So what's the deal with like the Dark Contract cards? Like, why are you playing like these ratios? You have 1 Dark Contract Entities, 1 with the Gate, or 3 with Gate, and then 1 with the Field Spell.
This is where we get entirely into the casual, and I would never play half of these cards in the actual deck. So, Dark Contract with the Entities is purely a tech card. It does almost absolutely nothing. It's the only reason it's even somewhat good is when it's good for the XZ's toolkit in the extra deck. It's essentially a Ice Dragon's Prison without having to summon one of their monsters. Because it's a free banish from field or graveyard. Fusion only gains 1,000 life points, and then Synchro, it turns Siegfried into a Towers, but it's not great.
Okay.
But the other reason why it's okay in this particular build is because it's a Dark Contract that you can pop for Deuce Machina.
Okay.
It's a different name.
Alright. So, obviously, we know why you play the 3 contract with the Gates, right? Where it's basically your main searcher. It's like your main kind of squeeze.
Yeah. Change of Heart was in here because of the tournament rule changes, and because Change of Heart had just come out off the ban list. It had come to 1. Foolish Burial is in there as an extender for Necros or for Lamia. Monster Reborn is a staple of many combo decks. The same thing here. It's just an extender of any sort. 1/1. I'm playing like 9 level 1s.
Yep.
I should probably have 1/1 in here. And then the Dark Contract with the patent license. So this is a newer one that came out, and it's a niche tech. But the important thing is that it protects some of your cards, and it's a searcher, and it's also a card you can pop with Machina. Again, you start to realize that if you can't make Machina with 2, and you can only make it with 1, then you need contract names on the field to kind of mess around.
Okay. Kind of surprised you don't play that trap card that kind of, if you have 2 cards in the Pendulum Zone, your opponent can't, especially one of the monsters from the extra deck or something like that.
It's too slow, and it's very often a lot of decks have spell and trap removal, which means that it's either too slow, or in the scales are gone, or they're used. Very often, for example, when I combo into the scales and I use Gilgamesh, one of them is going to the extra deck to use its effect, or one of them is being special summoned and then sent to the extra deck. So I only have 1 scale, and then the card doesn't work, and it's too slow.
Right. So finally, with the end of the main deck, you play 1 copy of Human Resources. So, like, what's the theory behind this one? So shuffle 3 cards into the deck of any common DD monsters.
Having the deck built this way in a casual form, where you're trying to do 3 different things at once, having resources to kind of mulligan your hand a little bit, even if it's a -1, is often better than just sitting there with nothing. So very often on, almost any DDD, any combination of DDD or DD cards will make Gilgamesh, Pendulum, Scales have a hand trap in your hand pass, which isn't great, but it's a free Siegfried if they attack or they pop, and then you have whatever hand traps you have. But having Human Resources to recycle, let's say I draw an Entities, a Patient License, and a Swirl Slime. Well, 2 out of 3 of those cards are completely useless to me because I don't have any combo pieces to make them work. So on my opponent's turn, while I have a Gilgamesh up, I'm going to flip resources, send those 2 contracts back to the deck, and add, a Lamia and a Necros, and then I can combo off on the next turn if I don't die.
Okay. Alright, so that's at the main deck. So what about the extra deck? So I play 1 copy of High King Genghis.
So these ratios should look familiar to anybody that's played DDD, with any level of consistency. It's the old. It's the formula sheet. It's the list. You know, ha ha ha. 2 synchros. So High Genghis is part of the extension combo. It's going to be summoned off of Necros into a cross sheep zone, so that way you can get a level 7 and a Lamia on the field. Your 2 low Genghis is literally your starter, past your normal summon. If you can get to Genghis and you can get the resources in the graveyard, then you can go very far. If you cannot, you are stuck on Lynx or XEs, and it doesn't get as far. Okay. Borreload Savage Dragon is a given. I prefer to play Borreload over Crystal Wing, but you could play Crystal Wing here, which is why it's in the side.
Okay.
And then Siegfried. Siegfried is a given. It's a spell and trap negate. Funny thing, a lot of people do not actually read this card, and they think I can only use it on my turn to target one of their face-up spell and traps and negate it. That is not the case. If you activate an Allure of Darkness, if you activate a Pot of Prosperity, if you activate a quick launch, I can negate that. It is exact same time. A lot of people don't realize that. Then the obvious with Gust King Alexander, it is the extender / level 7 you need to go into Crystal Wing, Borreload, or Siegfried. And then from there we have the XEs and the Link packages.
So obviously you have Zeus for your removal, but talk about like
Zeus's removal, and then Mark King Tell just overlays on top of Caesar. Both of these do different things when they're linked off, Caesar and Tell. So Caesar searches a contract when it's sent from the field to the graveyard, and Tell sends any DD card, including contracts, from deck to graveyard. But Caesar's from deck to hand, and Tell's from deck to graveyard. The idea is, depending on what you have in your hand, if you can't go very far, but you can get into 2 level 4 DDs, then you want to go into the 2, link off for a Gilgamesh, and then try and stall with a Siegfried and pass. So that way you can combo next turn. It also, if you have the ability to just make a Zeus, it's an extra material underneath Zeus. Final Xyz monster is Divisor King Deuce Machina.
Oh, you still have a Nightingale.
I apologize. I accidentally removed it from my screen. Assembled Nightingale. You're running so many level 1s and so many special summoning level 1s. Again, it's a free Zeus. And it's a stall card. I have won numerous games. Literally just my opponent on Master Duel, for example. My opponent will shotgun Max C. I'll go, okay. Special summon a Lamia, normal summon a Necros, overlay into a Nightingale, pass. Their standby phase, I send the Lamia to the graveyard, so now it doesn't get banished. I can't take damage, and they can't target it for destruction. So I'm just sitting there waiting for them to do whatever they want, and then I can combo next turn. It's also a free Zeus, because any 2 level 1s, you attack directly. If you have to detach one, you still can. Overlay for Zeus, wipe the board.
Yeah. Alright. And then finally,
Deuce Machina
X.
Machina X is... It's not a great card, but it is definitely good in DDDs in particular, which, you know, makes sense considering you can't really use it anywhere else. But I wouldn't say, like many cards that steal others from the opponent's side of the field, it's not terrible. You know, let's say my opponent normal summons a Zodiac Bunny Blast. Well, they get their search, but they can't overlay on top of it, and I can steal it. And let's say then they special summon, you know, a Rat Pier. Well, I can pitch their Bunny Blast and another card that was underneath it to make it in the first place to steal that as well. And I can just keep this cycle going until I run out of contract resources. Which is why, if you can get into a 4, it's better to overlay into the 4, go Wave, then Mark King Tell, then do some Machina X, and play out in the open as many contracts as you can, and just keep stealing their stuff.
Okay.
The links become very obvious.
Yes. Yeah, Underworld Goddess, Gilgamesh to set
Underworld
your
got it.
scales, and then Cross Sheep.
That's pretty much it. Cross
Alright.
sheep is the entire. If you nib my cross sheep, I'm dead.
Mm-hmm.
If you Veiler my cross sheep, I'm dead. If my cross sheep resolves, you're dead.
Okay.
Other than
So
that,
that's it. That's pretty much it, right? So your extract's pretty set in stone, right? For like in terms of like kind of ratios. There's also you have swappability with the side deck. So like basic side deck, you have like the 3 nibs for removal, especially 3 kaijus. But explain more about like the Phantom Knight stuff over down your side deck. What was your rationing behind this?
The Phantom Knights package was for 2 reasons. Very often, 2018, 2019 era, DDD would run just a very small Phantom Knights package in there because it's easy to combo into because almost everything is dark, and you can very easily get 2 negates on board if you have not much in your hand.
Okay.
And they float. The important part was you could remove stuff. You could remove the extra Gilgamesh and maybe the Mark King tail, and you could throw the 2 pieces you need in there, and then take hand traps out and put the Phantom Knight pieces in.
Okay. And then finally, you have Axico Talker and Nightmare Unicorn for removal, basically.
That would replace the Gilgamesh and the Underworld.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is a really fun deck list, honestly. I was very excited to see you play inside the tournament. But yeah, so how did you feel overall in terms of like how you did? Like, what do you think might change up for next time?
For next time, there are quite a few changes. For starters, Change of Heart is entirely useless to me. I drew it once and it was completely. If I remember correctly, I drew it once and it was completely useless. But now that I think over it more, the only time it would be useful is going into Underworld. Since the tournament, I've actually been tooling a bit more. I have a much more set in stone list to be used at a casual level. Both patent license and entities would come out. I know that leaves you with only 3 dark contract with the gate, but I wouldn't run Deus Machina either. There's no reason to run the Ink archetype cards like Deus Machina and Mark's King Tail when there are such better cards like Access Code, Crystal Way. Also, none of the Phantom Knights are in there anymore. It's just
okay.
If you're not running an actual Phantom Knight deck and you can't extend beyond it, there's not really much of a reason to anymore. The power creep has moved beyond that. Resources is useless. I would take a lot of the pendulums out. For example, I would only run 2 Griffin, and both Zero King Rage and Zero Laplace would be gone.
Okay.
The level 10 pendulums. I would still run the rest of the ratios. Also, Destrudo did not help me. I was looking for quick synchros into Borreload as quickly as possible off of combos. I honestly, and I forgot, and Halk was banned during this.
Yes.
So I shouldn't have run it to begin with. That was one of my biggest mistakes. I think I drew it every single opening hand and did nothing with it.
Okay. All right. Well.
So the direction of the deck would change.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm excited to see how that deck shapes up in the next Simply Casual tournament. And if you're ever wondering, who's watching this video now, if the Simply Casual tournament is that it's a casual tournament that we run, try to do it almost like monthly at this point. So make sure you join the Discord server and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys later. All right, so